Hi, this is Loci from Beta Folders. Today we're going to take a look at using the Remix tool to fix a non-ideal loop. And I've opened up puzzle 1805B, the first of the intermediate level coronavirus puzzles. And I've created a little problem for myself here. And if you look at the design part here in the lower right, you'll see right away most of that is healthy looking yellow color, I guess. But there's one bad red part here. And if we open up our objectives up here at the top, we see that there's one non-ideal loop. And we'll turn on the show option for the ideal loops filter here. Okay, and you can see that we have some red highlights on the four segments that are in that loop. So I'm still in the original interface here, and we'll try this in the selection interface too. But I'm going to move the protein up the screen a little bit due to a little quirk of the Remix tool. And I'm going to right-click on this bad loop and pick Remix from the menu. So far, so good. Okay, so that came back pretty quickly, and right away it tells me that I have 70 positions to go through. And when I find a good position, I'll expect the red highlights to disappear and the ideal loops bonus to increase to 500 points. So let's see what happens here. Oh, that was pretty quick. So it just so happens that the very first position that Remix found here is a good one. So there are two ways you can proceed. First, I could just use the X here in the Remix tool, and that would stop with everything in the position it is currently. Or I can use the plus here and get another plus, and that'll remember that remix for later. And I can do that with up to 8 different remix positions. So that's just a little trick there. I'm going to close it out at this point. Okay, and now you'll see briefly flashing on the screen there's a mention of quick save slot 1. So you have slots 1 through 8 that are available to you in the user interface here. And so potentially you could save up to 8 different positions and save and load those slots as needed to evaluate them. So the first thing I'll try is a wiggle here. So I'll right-click and say wiggle. And as you can kind of see from the highlighting, that's wiggling just the 4 segments that are in that loop. Okay, I'll stop the wiggle. And similar thing happens with shake. I'll pick shake from the menu here. A little bit harder to tell what's going on, but you can see that the 4 side chains in that section of loop are pulsing and the rest of the protein isn't moving around. So I'll stop that too. And then from the actions menu, wiggle all will wiggle the entire protein. And you want to do that just to make sure that your newly re-idealized loop is going to stay idealized. So I'll stop that. I'll shake for a few moments. And I'm just going to stop that. So good enough. That's one way to fix a non-ideal loop, and that's a relatively easy case. Now I'd like to take a look at the same thing in the selection interface. Okay, I've reloaded the solution here. And I've left the bad loops highlighted, and so we have that one bad loop again. And what I'm going to do is go to the menu and pick selection interface. And that changes the look of the screen, but didn't change the position of the protein or anything like that. With the selection interface, you can just click on segments to select them. So I'll click on this first red segment, which is actually part of the sheet here that's adjacent. That selects that, and then I'll click on the opposite segment of sheet. So now I've got 6 segments selected. You'll see that here in the upper left-hand corner. And so that's going to be 6 segments that any tool like Remix is working on. And from this row across the bottom here, I can select Remix. And it'd be similar to what we saw in the original interface. This time it's come up with fewer positions, only 21 versus 70 that we saw in the original interface. And that's probably because we're working with a larger number of segments. So let's click through these, see if we... So right away we once again get a position that will clear the ideal loops condition. So let's close that out. And then here we can do wiggle using the button or the W shortcut. So we'll wiggle. And not too surprisingly, our loop is holding its shape pretty well. This is because it was already an ideal loop before I broke it, and so fixing it is that much easier because it's pretty close to being in an ideal position. So we'll wiggle that, we'll shake that, then we'll just click on the background, and that will deselect all segments. And then I'll wiggle. I see we have lovely pulse while working turned on here, but that's okay. You get to see what it's like. Enough of that. Not moving. We'll shake a little bit. And also not making much of an impression on the protein, at least in its first few seconds. So anyway, that's a simple case. Now I was able to fix this bad loop pretty easily in both the original and the selection interface. The selection interface, to my mind, gives you a lot more control. You could get a little bit more control in the original interface. Say if I changed these adjacent sections from sheet to loop, then I could remix on the same 6 segments that I did here in the selection interface. But this just makes it a little easier to deal with. And so again, to review this, I'll turn off the show sidechains feature. I'll turn off the show bonds sidechain feature as well. And so to select something, you click on it. You can shift click to extend your selection. Whoops, extended it too far. Easy to click on the wrong thing. And if you just keep going, you can skip over segments, and I'm still shift clicking. You can control click and select non-adjacent segments, or you can use control click to deselect segments. So the selection logic and the selection interface is kind of like the logic you use for selecting files in Windows Explorer or something like that. So anyway, that's a quick introduction to the Remix tool, fixing one bad loop, and a quick introduction to the selection interface as well. Hope this helps, and keep on folding.